to the Seize the World podcast. I am your host, Sam Sees, and I'm here with Mike. How are you today, my man?
Pleasure to be on your podcast. This is really exciting.
It's a pleasure to have you here, my man. How's your day going?
Not bad. It's very busy at work. It's been crazy for the last 8 years since I started a new job.
When you first responded to the ad, I remember you telling me something about you were a welder.
Yes.
What is that like, being a welder?
Well, I'll tell you, I never thought I was good at anything until I went to trade school.
Okay.
And
how old were you when you went to trade school?
I think I was about 15 years old. I started trade school in my sophomore year, so you're about 15 or 16, I think, in your sophomore year. And I thought I wanted to be a mechanic, but the mechanic shop was full. And I said, well, I'll take the electrician shop. And, oh, that's full. Well, all we have is welding shop. And I said, oh, okay, I'll try welding shop. And I did, and I soon found out that I was actually good at it. It was a big confidence booster, you know. And so I got good at it, and I graduated high school, and before I even graduated, I had my first job making dumpsters, of all things, right? I made thousands and thousands of dumpsters, MIG welding dumpsters, and I learned to be very efficient. It was a high-paced manufacturing plant, and we had to make these dumpsters like a real quick pace, and I learned to be very efficient.
Right. You said you started after high school, I believe. Can you still do that today?
Yep, went right from high school right into the job.
Can you still do that today? I don't remember welding being a program when I was in high school.
I did. Well, I'm 57. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 57. So this is back in '86. I graduated, and manufacturing was still strong at that time, and I got right into it right after high school.
Wow. What can be done better with the welding community? What is the type of things you guys complain about the most when you're together? What can be better?
Lack of skill. That's easy. In the last 40 years, everybody went to college. Yeah. Everybody went to college, and because that was, part of the American dream was you got away from being a welder, a plumber, a carpenter, and everybody went to college. So we have a lack of skilled labor today, and it's a real problem, and it's hard to find good skilled people. When a young man or woman does come in the shop and I have an opportunity to train them, I'm so proud. It's such a proud moment every time I can teach someone, the skill, the trade, and it's a dying art.
How the hell do these people weld under the water?
Well,
how do you do that?
First of all, oxygen is not good for for welding, and so when you weld, stick, for example, you have flux on the stick, and what it does is it protects the weld pool from being contaminated by oxygen, because oxygen creates porosity in the weld. So whether you're in the air or under the water, if you're using an electrode, you can weld anything because that flux creates a bubble around the weld pool, and you're able to melt the steel with the electrode and weld. Underwater welding is quite a dangerous skill, and if you're good at it, you can get paid a lot of money.
That seems scary, man. Like, it can be. If I had a blowtorch underwater, I would probably swim with the sharks a little bit more. To be honest. Was there any safety issues people don't usually follow with welding?
All the time. Yeah. So in the industrial world, we have standards, OSHA. It's called OSHA standards. It's a regulating body put together by the government to make sure that industry adheres to a lot of safety protocol. So you have to constantly have meetings with your employees to make sure that they're up on all the safety protocols that one should take. For example, the most simplest one is use safety glasses, so you don't get a flash burn or you don't get sparks in your eyes when you're grinding. And I mean, people get hurt all the time, and it's usually because you're just not being careful. But if you're trained well enough, if it's drilled into you, then you can not get hurt as much. Now, I've been hurt over the years, and it's usually because I wasn't being safe and I was being careless.
What's the most common, welding accident that happens on a regular?
I would say flash burn. That's when you don't have your safety glasses on and you're too close to the arc, and you'll actually burn the cornea of your eye. And that's like having a bucket of sand poured in your eye, and it usually lasts about 12 to 24 hours, and it can be very painful and very annoying. You can go blind if you do too close because you're burning your eyes, but that's the most common. Other injuries are basically cuts, burns. You get burns a lot. Touching hot metal can burn you. I've been burned plenty of times over the years. I remember one of my first job, I was welding overhead inside closed-top containers, MIG welding overhead, and the sparks would rain down upon you, and you had to wear leathers so you wouldn't get burned. But every once in a while, that spark got in your boot, and that's how I learned how to dance.
Man, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Switching gears.
You can get paid well. There's different tiers of the industry. You can make dumpsters and not really get paid as much when you're making a bunch of the same thing over and over again. An industrial plant, an assembly line, you might not get paid as well as maybe an underwater welder. Underwater welders will make $150,000 a year.
That was my next question. Is the pay good these days for a welder, or does it matter? Okay.
Absolutely. It can be. It depending on what type of welding you're doing. It depending on how many processes you know. I'm an older person, so I've been in the industry since 1986, and I know and have learned a lot of processes of welding. But it's not only the welding; it's fabrication too. So you have to learn how to put something together. You have to learn how to read a blueprint so you can assemble, like you're making a model, whatever it is you're doing. One thing, I went to a high school and spoke to a shop teacher once, and I asked him, it's great that you're teaching all these kids how to weld, but what kind of fabrication knowledge are they getting? And he says, well, we don't have really time for that. And I said, well, that's a shame, because if you know how to square a frame, if you know how to make a frame, everything is geometric shapes, squares, rectangles, triangles, circles. And if you know how to make a frame, you could put anything together. If you know how to square a frame. Carpenters, they must square frames all day, and it's just part of the trade.
Switching gears, another thing in your message, you told me you like to go camping. You're an avid camper. Is that true?
Love camping ever since I was a little kid. My dad in the early 70s would take us camping. Our first trip, he had a 48 Plymouth, and this is a big old black car, you know what I mean? It's a 48 Plymouth, and he would strap a canoe to the top of this thing, if you can imagine. A canoe strapped to a 48 Plymouth, and we would drive up to the Delaware Water Gap. Now, the Delaware Water Gap is very close. You're from the area, correct?
Yes.
Well, it's 2 hours away. It's not far. It's basically New Jersey actually has the Kinnatini Ridge in the northwest corner. It's a Appalachian mountain range, and right there is great places to go camping and hunting, fishing, all kinds of great stuff. So in the 70s, he would bring us there, and we would canoe across the Delaware River to an island. We would hack our way in like it was the land of the lost. Now, this is a magical experience if you're 10 years old. You know what I'm saying? It was really cool. And we would hike in, and we would set up camp, and you would be in another world. And it was, like I said, a magical experience for a young boy and his brother.
Yeah. How's it different? How's camping different today than it was back when you used to go when you were a child?
Well, it hasn't changed much. It depends on the person. Because you're always going to a campsite. Campsites really don't change. It's the cheapest vacation you could ever take.
Yes, it is.
But personally, I've evolved from camping in a little pup tent to having like the state-of-the-art Kodiak canvas tent with Cabela's camp kitchen, blow-up mattress, the whole nine. If you're bringing the ladies, you got to make them comfortable. You know what I'm saying, Sam?
Yeah. Yes, you do.
You want them to come with you. You know what I mean? So you want to make them comfortable.
Yes, sir.
I've gone hiking. I've gone backpacking. That's the most rudimentary kind of camping trip you can take because you only can take what you have on your back, and so everything's got to be miniaturized and light. And you can hike a couple miles up into the mountains in the middle of nowhere, and that's really cool too. And I've been camping. I went camping to campsites, but through the years, I wanted to be a little bit more comfortable because I'm working hard, and and I'm kind of like a camper G.I. Joe, and I want all the latest gadgets and gizmos. And so some say I was glamping in the end before I got my camper, because now I have a camper. But, I evolved over the years and always had a good time. It's my favorite vacation to take. I've been to the islands. I haven't been to Europe or anything like that, but I still love it. It still brings out the child in me when I'm standing around that campfire and cooking over it and listening to music with good friends or family.
You got to be making s'mores, man. I hope you're making s'mores.
It's making s'mores.
Okay.
The whole nine. I make all my food over the fire. Everything gets made over the fire.
Now, do you do any hunting when you out there?
I'm not a hunter. Never been a hunter. Nothing against hunting. I just never got into it. A lot of friends of mine have been hunters, and I always get the toils of their hard work. They give me a backstrap or something, you know what I mean, or a hind quarter, and I always cook it up. But I was a pretty avid fisherman in my younger years, and I haven't done it in a long time. And as a matter of fact, me and my uncle, who was my fishing partner, we were about to go on a camping trip soon, so that'll be fun. We're going to go fishing for the first time in a long time, so we're looking forward to that.
Man, that's awesome, man.
It is. It's really cool, Sam. I love it, man.
Let me ask you, I know you talked a lot about, in your message also, about, you said you can talk politics with the best of them. Am I right with that?
Well, maybe not with the most brilliant of them. I consider myself
nobody's up there brilliant, my man.
I consider myself a backyard politician, right? We listen to the news. We make our own opinion about what is happening. I try to listen to both sides. I try to have a balanced view. And you know what? When in the 80s, everybody was pretty much center right, center left. There wasn't many fringe elements out there making such so much noise on the right or the left. Okay. But now there is, as we know, and it's creating a lot of division. And so I always say to myself, what is the common bond that we all have in whatever issue we're talking about? And let's concentrate on that. there has to be something we can build on, when it comes to different issues like immigration or abortion or tariffs, for example. So.
What do you think? What do you think? What do you think about the back and forth that's going on right now between the U.S. and China over the tariffs?
China, it's kind of a paradox. See, Nixon helped bring China into the global market. He thought it would be good for them. He thought it would be good for the world, and it was for a long time. Unfortunately, China doesn't follow the rules. China has, along with many other countries, has been practicing unfair trade practices with the United States. I think we have it's like 170 billion trade deficit with China. They have stolen our intellectual property. They have hacked our Social Security numbers. This should scare a lot of people because everybody's worried about Elon Musk taking this, taking that. Nobody's making a fuss. U.S. Social Security numbers, and that should be very scary to people. So China has been acting unfairly, and they don't allow much of our imports into their country, and that can't stand because how can a capitalist society or Western society compete with a communist nation? You can't, because they don't have to pay their people nothing. They can make goods very cheaply and just saturate the world market with them, and it creates trade imbalances that hurts American workers, European workers, Asian workers all over the world. Right. So I think we have to level the playing field, and this is what President Trump is doing in imposing tariffs on different nations, in particular China. And the most for China is for them to come to the table and make a deal. I mean, I think that's. Look, all the politicians from Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, President Obama, Bill Clinton, they all said the same thing at one point in time, that we have to level the playing field when it comes to dealing with China. Right. And I hope, and look, I was really nervous about tariffs because you only heard a lot of bad things about having a trade war, until you get down to the brass tacks of how much tariffs are levied against the United States by Canada, Europe, Taiwan, Vietnam. And I was worried that this is going to be bad news for the United States. But it turns out that a lot of these countries have come to the table now. They're coming to the table and they want to make a deal. I think Europe just announced that they would like to make a deal for zero tariffs, and that's a good thing. And we shouldn't be saber rattling, and we should be humble about it, because these are our partners throughout the world. Right. These are people that we can benefit from, and they benefit from us. So hopefully, asking them nicely over the years, or just standing on your podium and saying this is bad and we got to do something about it, and not doing anything about it, wasn't getting it done.
I agree with that. So you agree with the tariffs then, right? That's what it sounds like.
I'm slowly coming around. I have to see them work. Like I said, I'm nervous about them. I'm still nervous about them. I would like to see them work, bring fruit. If Trump can make a deal with these countries to have zero tariffs and let American goods into these different companies and let us compete with what people want. That people of the world want to have, regardless of how much it costs all the time. You know what I mean? I think that would be a good thing. So I'm nervous about the tariffs. I want them to work. It looks like a lot of good things are happening right now as far as people coming to the table. So I'm gonna, the jury is still out whether or not they're going to work at the end of the day. So we'll see.
Right. For the benefit of our country, we want them to work, right?
Yes, absolutely.
We want this to somehow work, even if we don't understand, the master plan of it right now. We want it to work. We
absolutely.
Want
Absolutely.
Right.
If it brings more jobs and manufacturing to the United States, that's always a good thing, especially in the blue collar world that I am in.
Right. So, how do you feel about Elon Musk's involvement with the government?
Love him.
You love it? Tell me why you love it.
I think that waste, fraud, and abuse runs rampant in the United States government. I think we all have a pretty good feeling that's the case. And a lot of politicians over the years have said they're going to do something about it. They just never did. Right. But the exception of laying off workers, and look, people get laid off all the time. It's a shame. It sucks. But if a company cannot afford to maintain 100 workers and they have to lay off 20, they're going to do it. Yeah. The United States, I know, is not a company, but there are a lot of parallels there. A company pays its workers, it provides health insurance. It provides pension plans, forms of 401ks. The government does the same thing. So if you are getting ripped off by other countries through a trade imbalance, and the coffers are not filling up as high as they should be, then you're going to have a deficit. How are you supposed to continue to give money to different companies for all these ridiculous reasons that we may have heard lately? And Doge is finding all these crazy expenditures. I won't go into it, but they're crazy. You can go on the Doge website and just go down the list of everything that the United States has been funding, and it's horrifying. When you have veterans that are living on the streets, when you have seniors that are paying too much for health care and pharmaceuticals, the fact that we're spending, I think what they found, $175 billion in waste so far, that's not million, that's billion. And we just got started. This is going in a direction that I think is going to end a lot of political careers. Mm-hmm. And they're going to have to, that's going to have to happen, because the American people want proof. We want to see, okay, you're saying $250 billion or $175 billion have been wasted. Now we want to see who is responsible and who is going to be accountable for it.
Right. Where do you think the Democrats go from here, now that they're all in shambles?
I think the Democrats need to get back to the American people, doing for the American people. The Democrats have always been for the working man and the downtrodden. And a lot of these expenditures were, no good deed goes unpunished type of thing. So in the beginning, you want to help people. You want to give a lending hand. Government is there to pick people up and help them rise out of poverty. Along with capitalism. Capitalism is a big example of a system that has done that. But government must always also be there in the form of Social Security and unemployment benefits and stuff like that. I think that the Democrats got to get back to doing for the American people and not enriching themselves and not. And this goes for politicians across the board. All they care about is power. You know what I mean? It seems the Democrats have gone in the way of, we want to be in power so we can, push all these initiatives that aren't good for the wide majority of the American people, just this small section of them. Yeah. And I think if they widen their view and get back to basics with helping the American worker and the downtrodden, I think they can build from that and come back.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Let me circle back to Doge. Do you think we'll get that tax credit from all of the, bad spending that we have been doing over the years?
I don't need, me personally, I'll tell you personally, I don't need a tax credit. Right. Pay down the deficit. Right. Spend the money on veterans. Spend the money, give seniors a tax cut.
Right.
That's what I'd rather see. I mean, I work hard. I make decent money. I'm good. Yeah. I know others are not, but I'm sorry.
Right. No, sorry to cut you off. My opinion with that thing, with the tax credit is, if you owe Americans money, then you should pay them their money back.
Hey, there ain't nothing wrong with that.
Right, there should be nothing wrong with that. We didn't create the debt, you guys did. But if you owe us something, we can do both. You can pay us back and pay the debt down at the same time. I'm all for that, as well as helping out the veterans and, people in our country that really needs it.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And believe me, I'm not going to send a check back. Right. But there's a lot of different ways you can do it, in tax cuts and maybe providing stimulus in different ways in the economy. But hey, if you want to send me a check, I'll take it.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of people taking it.
You know it.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you one more question. You did say you didn't mind talking about relationships and women. Are you married, by the way? If you don't mind me asking, I'm sorry.
Been married twice, and okay. I have a good friend I hang out with.
Okay.
It's weird, and when you're young, it's easy to fall into relationship, and if you're lucky, well, if you do it right, you'll end up in that relationship for the rest of your life. But as you grow older and you get more and more obligation in your life, it's work, family, extended families, things like that, it becomes harder to really make a commitment to someone. In a meaningful way, and so it leaves you in a state of flux. So I think I'm in a state of flux right now, but hopefully, I'll get my act together.
Well, let me ask you: have women raised their standards, or has men stopped trying?
I think a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think women in the last 50 years have become more independent.
Right.
And so by virtue of that, their standards have raised. And when a woman works hard and has a great job, she's smart, she's going to want a man who can be on her level.
Right.
And I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. And men, on the other side of the coin, recognize that, and maybe some that don't have the type of confidence that is, or bargaining power, say in a career or something like that, may shy away from those types of women that are very independent.
Right. What I was going to say was, women today who has raised their standards, I guess, I don't look at that as a bad thing.
No, not at all.
I just think that women today just want more, and they don't want to put up with, worse men anymore. The worst version of us, I guess.
Of course not. Of course not.
Right?
And why would they? And that comes from that independence. That comes from,
Yeah.
my mom was a working woman, and she filled me with the work ethic I have today, and so did my dad to a large extent as well. They were separated, but my mom had custody of me and my brother, and she was a hard worker, and she married a guy that was on her level, and so that I don't blame women for looking for guys that are got their act together. No, not at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you have any daughters or not, but
I don't.
I never was that guy. What I care mostly about is is he making her happy?
Exactly.
And I think that men today focus more on, finances and status versus just make the woman happy. If you
I
can
can
make
agree
the
with
woman
that.
happy, you can figure out the standards part. Like you can build yourself up and she'll help you.
And that's true, Sam. I mean, standards can mean anything. If a woman happens to bring home the majority of the income, but the man is very supportive and a good family man and a good person, and
Right.
treats her respectfully,
Right.
that's a good man right there.
That's a good man. That's a good man that's on his way to getting on his feet.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. And it's that support system that a family has is probably for another episode. The family unit. The family
Yes.
unit
Yeah.
has broken down over the years and caused a lot of issues.
Sorry. My son had a fake scratch on his hand that he needed a Band-Aid for.
Oh, hey man, you got to tend to the wounds. Oh, good. I have two sons, so been there, done that. Yep.
How old?
Well, they're in their 30s now. 30, 33, and 32.
Okay. I'm 37.
Okay, all right.
They're right around my age. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, they're good. You're good guys. They were the best guys in the world. They didn't give me. I didn't deserve them because I was a son of a gun.
Right.
But this
That means you did deserve them. That means you did.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I try to do the best I can, and they're artists. They're artists, and they're successful at what they do. I told them if you want to be artists, you have to be exceptional at what you do. Because if there's so many artists out there that you need to find a way to rise above the fray, and they have, and that's great.
What kind of artists are they exactly?
My oldest son is a tattoo artist.
Okay.
And he went to college for graphic design and got a job at a sign company for a while. And on the side, he did tattoos. And he's always been an artist. He's always been drawing Pokemon and Pikachu and all this stuff. He always had he's always drawn all his life. And he's got into the tattooing and started to do that out of his bedroom. And he's got that focus. You know what I mean? It's all about perfection and doing a good job. And he finally made the transition to be a full-time artist about, I guess, 5 years ago. And he's in Lancaster right now and working for a studio. And he is successful and he pays the bills. He's got his own place and it's very lucrative for him. He does really good stuff. I got an Eddie. I'm a metalhead from way back. You might not notice, but I got an Eddie from Iron Maiden from Here to Here that he did.
Wow.
And I tried to talk him into this, man. I said, come on, you got to give me this Eddie. I'm not ready, Dad. I'm not ready. I was like, don't worry about it. So I was kind of like a guinea pig, but he really did a great job on it.
Right.
And it's cool. My younger son is a musician. He lives in New York City. He's in a band, a Senegalese band. He's a jazz-trained guitarist, and he met a guy by the name of Abba Diop at a guitar clinic in the Catskills, and they became fast friends. And Abba was forming a band with these Senegalese players that are famous in Senegal. It's really cool.
Wow.
Like my son's famous in Senegal.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really neat, man, and the jazz kind of background really fit in well with the band, and you can find them on iTunes. Abba Diop and the Yermande family. Abba Diop and the Yermande family. Abba is the vocalist and percussionist, and he's the leader of the band. And they've been playing up and down the East Coast for some time now. They made a couple albums. He's gone to Africa to make the album, do a lot of videos for the album. It's really cool. And he's out of New York City right now. So he's an interesting guy. He's about to make the transition to become a full-time musician, and that's what we all hope for and encouraged him to do.
Man, that was amazing. That was
really
amazing.
Neat. Yeah, you gotta check it out. They're on YouTube, everything. Check them out.
Yeah, I got to, man.
Now, Sam, it's world music.
Okay.
Okay. World music. You got to have an ear for it. But I was first introduced to world music by artists like Peter Gabriel, Paul Simon, Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin, singer for Led Zeppelin, and they would introduce us in pop culture to all this great vocals and musicianship, and so it stuck with me. And when I'm always searching for a new genre, and I may have mentioned in my email that I went to a Wilco festival, and there was this band Mdu Mokhtar, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but wow, what a great band! And I started getting into that, and then the next thing you know, my son's in a band from Senegal. So it's an amazing it's amazing how things happen that way, but you can find them on YouTube and on iTunes. Abba Diop and their Yermande family.
Mike, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't have a stingy ear. I like everything.
't
To be honest, yeah, I like if it's good, I like it. Trust me, I like all types of music. I'm that kind of guy. If it's good, I'm gonna dance to it, man. I'm gonna buy it.
Excellent, man. Check out some Fela Kuti. He's been around for a long time.
Shoot, man. As soon as we get off of here, I'm going to look up everybody you've been telling me about.
Awesome, man. Check it out. Look, rock, jazz music, blues, and rock and roll, funk. Okay. It all derives from that country.
Okay.
All those beats.
You said that in your email that you believe all good music comes from the indigenous African theory. Why do you believe that?
I do. I certainly do believe it. And the more African music you listen to, the more you'll recognize so many different styles in American music. And of course, it evolved in the United States to be rock and roll and the blues and jazz and funk. But that core vibe, man, that core vibe is Africa.
So you believe that core vibe translated to all genres?
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing.
You look Fela Kuti up and all these guys. Yeah, you won't be disappointed. M2 Mokhtar, really, really great musicians. Eric Clapton. How can I forget Eric Clapton? He was in Cream. He was a guitar player in Cream. And Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker. There you go. I had to get it. Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna get all these names down. Don't worry about it. Next time we talk, I'm gonna have a full catalog waiting.
I'm having a good time, man. I would do this anytime. Any topic you want to talk about, I'm having a good time. Yes, I really appreciate your time. Thank you, Sam. Hey.
This is probably my 6th, 7th interview, and every one of them, I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful that you responded to the ad. I'm grateful that you're giving me and giving these viewers the knowledge that you have. Your opinions, it matters. We matter. People matters. And
absolutely.
When we're talking amongst each other, we can actually figure things out.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. We all share a common bond.
Right.
We can all find a common bound in any of these issues that people are so polarized over and hating one another over. It's just a shame.
Exactly. And
look, I'm guilty of getting a little crazy myself sometimes, but at the end of the day, you want to have a conversation like we're having today,
right?
And look for common bonds, and then you do that, solve some problems.
Exactly. That's right.
Seize the world, my friend. Seize the world.
Thank you. That's right. I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you.
I appreciate you. All right, Sam.